Oh, probabilities. So a lot of students have trouble, I will warn you in the beginning, with probability. Just takes a lot of practice. I think some of it deals with fractions, and most of y'all don't like fractions, right? You deal with probabilities all the time. The probability it's going to rain, the probability you're going to pass this class, the probability that you might get an infectious disease, and so on. And so you're going to see it comes down to these basic concepts. Okay, so typically it could just be some experiment, which in this case could just be you in this course. The sample space could be, consist of the possible outcomes. So you can make an A, B, C, D, or F. An event, we might be interested in what's the probability you make an A. Okay, and so that's what this talks about, the probability of that event. Lots of notation. The big ones you're going to see is this P of A, the probability that A actually occurs. Other huge things to remember is I see so many students will answer the probability is 1.3. It can't be. It has to be between 0 and 1. So if you're getting a probability greater than 1 or negative, then something has gone awry. So, like the probability you flip a coin and you get heads could be 1/2 or could be 0.5, right? So there's a bunch of different ways to actually state it. Something impossible would be 0. Something certain to occur would be 1. If you have an entire probability distribution, meaning everything that could happen, every outcome, they have to add to 1. Because that's saying you have covered all the probabilities. Something unlikely, meaning very small, 0.05 or smaller. When you write out probabilities, you're going to be writing out the number of times something occurs, okay, over the number of times the experiment is conducted. I tend to say this on the bottom, the sample space, because if we go back to flipping a coin, the probability, and what's the probability you get heads? Well, there's one way to get heads out of 2 possible outcomes, meaning your sample space. Okay, so your sample space would be heads or tails, so that's how you get 1/2 or 0.5. Other things, you're going to learn, how to read tables, how to find probabilities from tables. The first thing you always want to do is total your columns and rows, because that's how the probabilities, we'll see some examples in the homework videos. Multiplication rule, and is the big word here. Whenever you see and, that means to multiply. So the probability of A and B means to multiply both A and B. Talks about here that if you already have information, so the probability of A times the probability of B, given A has already occurred, this line means given. So we might ask, well, what's the so we have 2 probabilities. What's the probability you roll a single die and you get a 4 and it's even, right? Because a 4 is even. Well, in this case, if you get a 4, then this probability here is already going to tell you that it was an even number. So again, looking at examples will probably make a little bit more sense, with these, depending on if they're independent, or it talks about with replacement, like you draw an M&M out, there's, 10 M&Ms in a jar and 3 are red. What's the probability that you would get a red? Well, 3 out of 10. Well, now let's say you draw 2 and the probability you get a red, the first one is still 3 out of 10. The probability you get a red out of the second one, now there's only 2 out of 9 unless you replace that first draw. And that's all this means with replacement. The other key term to know, complement. The complement means the probability it did not happen. If the probability of a single six-sided die, the probability I roll a 3, there's only one 3 out of 6, well, the probability of not rolling a 3 would be 1 minus that value. And that's what the complement, that's all the complement is saying, is 1 minus the probability it actually occurred. And then finally, or, the word or means to add. So if I say the probability A or B happen, that's when you're going to use the addition rule. So a lot of different rules in here. We're going to go through some homework examples. That's the only way you're going to learn it, is to actually see some actual examples. And as always, reach out with any questions.